I love single DD IEMs, and despite being a very simple configuration featuring just a single driver, it is surprisingly difficult to get it right. And despite a lot of budget IEMs being basically filled with single DD IEMs, it's quite difficult to find really good single DD IEMs up in the price bracket. So it really has to stand out from the crowd to be as good as hybrids or even tribrids. But today we're going to be talking about one such IEM that completely utilizes what makes single dynamic drivers so good. So let's talk about the Dunu Kima 2. Before we start, I would just like to thank Dunu for sending over the Kima 2 in exchange for my honest thoughts and opinions. If you would like to order one, consider using the link down below. But all my thoughts and opinions about the Kima 2 are of my own, and I was not paid or compensated in any way to say anything about the product. Dunu. I mean, like, where do we even start at this point? We've reviewed a couple of their IEMs already. My very first one was the SA6 Mark II, then followed by the Falcon Ultra, and then finally the Titan S2. And here we have their latest release, the Kima 2, coming from the Kima series of IEMs and featuring the Eclipse driver that you can find in, say, the Falcon Ultra or specifically the Vernus, because a little bit of a background here, the Kima 2 was based off the Dunu Vernus, which was released a couple of years ago. It had this really cool funky green color, and I would say a lot of people liked it, according to at least what I've seen online. So let's see what this $120 single DD Kima 2 can provide in the market today, starting with the unboxing experience. Oh, and before I start, I would just like to say that the Kima 2 is currently, at the moment of recording, running a limited release for the green variant. So if you would like to get the green variant, please get it as soon as you can, because there's only 999 units, and this kind of like harks back to the Vernus that I mentioned previously. So yeah, the unboxing experience of the Kima 2 is what you might expect from Dunu. You get a rather complex yet beautiful artwork up front with the specs on the back and the most bountiful accessory inclusion of any IEM in today's market. From high quality ear tips to a massive carrying case, Kima 2 has got you covered. Except that's not all, because you also get an acrylic stand based on the artwork up front, if you're into that. But accessory inclusions aren't the only thing Dunu is known for, because the build and fit of the Kima 2 is just phenomenal. It features the Eclipse single DD housed inside a metal alloy shell with a matte finish on the standard edition, which is what I have, and a glossy green on the limited edition, akin to a emerald color. And my goodness, this thing is such a beauty. Call me biased for matte finishes, but this is genuinely one of the best looking and feeling IEM at this price range that uses a metal IEM that you know you won't get scratched or get fingerprints on the moment you touch it. The polygonal aesthetic is also looking pretty good, albeit not fitting with the cutesy packaging and artwork. The fit is also phenomenal with good stability, but not really the best sealing. I found myself enjoying this hours on end without fatigue or the earpieces popping off. And once again, just like the Titan S2, we get a half power cord modular cable and arguably the best modular system. I will live and die saying that the Q-Lock Mini is the best modular system in the market right now. The cable itself is great, with the power cord part being soft, supple, and durable, while the non-power cord area is good enough, albeit the kind of material that gets stiff over a few months. And finally, talking about the sound. Guys, I have a new reference target now. I'm not even joking with you guys. The Kima 2 is exactly what I imagine for what neutral sounds like in my ears. And I genuinely think that this kind of tuning is my baseline for basically, I want more treble, I want more bass, whatever. I just adjust it, and this is the baseline. It's just that neutral to my ears. The bass is linear but pristine, tight, and surprisingly very nuanced and textured. The mid-range, some of the best mid-range you will ever hear in the market today. And the treble, absolutely silky smooth with good details, good airiness, but nothing too overboard. And I love the timbre of this so freaking much. One of the best IEMs when it comes to timbre under $200, guaranteed. And as for source pairing, I would say that this is an IEM that scales really well with sources, basically getting most of the driver's qualities and strengths in place with a better source. But I would say it's fine with lower powered sources, like maybe just a simple dongle DAC, like the VE Avani or Odo, or something a little bit more powerful, like I would say the Dunu DTC480, which is a little bit more expensive, but surprisingly fits this kind of sound really well. So I would say stick with what you have. And as for volume, this is probably one of the best volume scaling IEMs that I've heard. Mostly because it fits my HRTF really well. I could just crank the volume really high on this and not feel any really fatigue until I reach my actual limit or the limit of the volume. But I choose to go low volume because I take care of my ears. Now starting with the bass, this reminds me a lot of the HC Sound Hark Mirror when I first read about it and then tried it, and they were all talking about how tight and clean and linear the bass is but lacks impact. And basically, in the case of the Kima 2, it is exactly the same, except it's even cleaner and even more textured, so there's not a lot of warmth as much as the Heart Mirror had, in contrast to the upper mids, of course. And the Kima 2 has such a pristine balance of sub-bass to mid-bass that I've heard in any neutral tune IEM, and I really, really love the bass presentation of this because it's just clean. It's just so linear, and I can just EQ in a little bit of bass and have basically no issues with like getting it sounding muddy, because I know exactly how the bass is going to be boosted. It's going to be completely flat, and I can just boost just the sub bass, get a little bit of mid bass, or get a little bit of warmth. And that's the beautiful thing about the Kima 2. I guess you could even say this is a really good EQable set, which I'll talk about later, but this is just a really, really good bass linear presentation, but definitely not for bass heads. Not for people who are looking for an engaging, thumpy, thriving kind of bass. It's more of a generous kind of a linear, more balanced bass for those who like a decent amount of bass, not to choke like, you know, open back headphones or earbuds, but more than enough bass to get you through the day. And for the mid-range, wow, I'm really confident to say that this is probably the best IEM under $200 to do mid-range. Like, I am not even kidding. This is like from lower mids to upper mids. It is just the most pristine level of balance in any sub $200 IEM that I have ever heard, and that's not easy to pull off. You know, you just have something like the Kato, which sure, it kind of follows a similar sound signature, but at the same time just something off about that IEM that I didn't really like in terms of the sound. And the Kima 2 is basically what the Kato wants to be, and I just adore the mid-range of these. Basically any kind of vocals that I listen to, male vocals, female vocals, any instrument, it just sounds right and it just sounds good. Although, just like the bass, not really the most engaging IEM to listen to in terms of instruments. There's not a lot of grunginess on the low end because, you know, once again, linear bass, but good detail, good nuance. It doesn't sound muddy or colored whatsoever. Just not very fun or engaging at all. And same with the upper mids. If you're used to a lot of upper mids, then you might not find this to be that exciting to listen to. But if you want something that could put out the mid-range in a very linear manner that is really, really soothing and very euphonic, as some of the audiophiles would say, then this is an absolutely fantastic set for mid-range. And the treble essentially perfectly tops off the entire sound, as in essentially this is basically the best kind of treble to pair with this kind of sound. And I really, really appreciate that Dunu did not try to push too much treble onto this or try to add like a balanced armature to give more detail. I just think that the single dynamic driver all throughout this entire IEM is just perfectly fitting all the way to the treble. It is just really, really well done. The treble is sparkly, but not overly so. It's airy, but not overly so. And it's decently energetic to give you a bit of a energy to listen to whenever it comes to like high frequency instruments and vocals. But once again, not the most detailed IEM that you can find, not the most airy or well extended, and just not the most exciting in the treble region. Again, just like the mids and the bass, not the most excited treble. And finally, talking about the technicalities, yeah, I mean, for $120, there are definitely sets that are more technical sounding than the Kima 2, but it's no skimp either. It doesn't skimp out on technicalities. It does separation and layering very well. You're not gonna feel like you're gonna suffer when it comes to, you know, getting the details down, as again, dynamically and transiently, and resolving wise. This is a really good set in terms of its ability to pick apart the sound, but not necessarily in a super analytical way that it's the focus. It's still really neutral, very reference sounding, but at the same time not overly so that it kind of dissects the music in an unsatisfying way. That's the thing that I really appreciate that the Kima 2 does, is it doesn't overblow on that neutral reference sound to make music sound stale. But depending on your preference, it might sound like that, but for me, I never found it like to sound too stale. So, compared to the SimGot EA500LM, the LM boasts a similar level of technicalities as the Kima 2, and maybe even a little bit better at the cost of timbre and offensiveness. The EA500 has a considerably edgier and more engaging and more technical focused sound compared to the Kima 2, while the Kima 2 is more neutral and tonally focused. Compared to the Into Aura Luna Plume, this is arguably the most appropriate comparison, as they both have very similar focus of tone over technicalities. The main difference being the Plume having a warmer and richer tone and overall sounding more engaging than the Kima's more neutral and vocal-centric tone. I'd argue that the Plume is a more versatile set for most genres and has a more soothing tuning, but the Kima 2 is more consistent and reference-like sounding between the two. Compared to the Dunu Titan S2, the Titan S2 is a warmer, more engaging set with worse technicalities, but a similar level of smoothness and refinement. You could even say that the Kima 2 is the upgrade to the Titan S2, but the Titan S2 is also a more U-shaped and fun-sounding IEM. Either way, Dunu accessories are always a win. Compared to the Oriveti Dynabird, this is basically the complete opposite of the Kima 2. Bright, abrasive, energetic, and unapologetically V-shaped. This is for the thrill seekers and joyriders that the Kima 2 completely contrasts with its smooth, silky, and relaxing tone. Lastly, let's compare to my technically single DD reference, the SimGot EA1000. The EA1000 is still my favorite technically single DD, as it is able to balance good technicalities and fantastic tone. The Kima 2 is then expectedly less technical and less detailed overall, but has a generally more soothing and euphonic timbre compared to the EA1000. This is the exact IEM that spoiled me of how good single DD IEMs can get, but the Kima 2 can still boast about its fantastic tonal balance. And to finally conclude, this is my favorite sub $200 IEM right now. Like, I want to see just like for neutral, but like, I can't think of a single IEM under $200 that has given me as much listening joy as the Kima 2. And it might not be the most fun IEM, might be the most technical sounding IEM, but it fits the genres that I listen to absolutely perfectly, from jazz all the way to R&B. This delivered completely. So if you like the kind of genres that I listen to, if you think that your tastes are similar to my taste, which is usually on the brighter signature, but in this case it's just a lot more tame, but also still pretty neutral, pretty reference-like for me personally, then the Kima 2 is the IEM for you. And thank you so much for watching my review on the Dunu Kima 2. If you would like to order one, consider using the non-affiliated link down below. If you like my content, consider subscribing. If you like this video, consider liking. Check out Audio Notions, check out the Discord, and check out my socials. With that, Obodio